Here's what defined paddles in 2025. Full foam core stopped being experimental and became legitimate options. Brands started competing on raw power versus feel and control, well, most of them anyway. And the $100 to $200 price range, that's where all the action happened. Brands figured out they didn't need to charge $300 to build something worth playing, and Ronbus and Vatic Pro blew up the foam core market with excellent performance for around $100. Over the past month, over 1,000 of you voted on your favorites at matspickleball.com. For each category, I'm showing you my top picks, my runner-up, and my winner. Then I'll share what you voted as the top community pick, and we'll see where we agree and where we don't. We're covering the best power paddle, best all-court, best control, best value, most underrated, the paddle I wanted to love but couldn't, and closing with the paddle of the year. So let's get into it. Let me set the context for what made 2025 different. The True Foam Genesis, Selkirk Boomstick, Bread and Butter Loco, Ronbus Quanta, Vatic Pro V-Sol, Honolulu Pickleball's NF Series, these weren't limited releases or beta projects. Well, the Boomstick was. They were production paddles you could actually buy and play in tournaments, and Full Foam went from maybe this works to this is a real option here to stay. And the low to mid-range bracket delivered. The Franklin C45 at $229, RPM Friction Pro at $250, Luzz Cannon at $93, Ronbus Quanta at $99, and so on. You could get serious performance without breaking $300. Here's how this works. Each category has my runner-up and my winner, the two paddles I think define that space in 2025. Then I'll share the paddle you voted for as your top community pick at matspickleball.com. Let's start with power. My runner-up is the Ronbus Quanta R2. I dismissed this paddle at first, but then I hit with it, and it was light and very fast in the hand, and drives were jumping off the face with real force. The problem was everything else. Off-center hits twisted in my hand, it plays unstable in stock form, and I felt like I was fighting the paddle instead of playing with it. So I added some weight to the sides, starting with the R2 shape, and it completely transformed how the paddle played. That hollow thud became this deep boom. The sweet spot opened up considerably, mishits that dropped off suddenly didn't, and everything stayed more controlled. I started comparing it to the Boomstick, a paddle that costs over $300, and the difference was way smaller than it should be, like uncomfortably close for Selkirk. At $99 after code, if you're willing to spend 5 minutes tuning it, you're getting performance that embarrasses paddles twice or 3 times the price. That shouldn't be possible, but here we are. 2025 was a good year. My winner is the Honolulu Pickleball J2 NF long handle. This was the paddle that kept pulling me back all year. It was the one I didn't want to put down. I test something new, play a few hours and think, yeah, this is solid, then grab the J2 NF and immediately feel the difference. It hits hard, but what surprised me was how quick it felt in transitions. Counters came easy. I wasn't constantly adjusting my timing or fighting to get the paddle around fast enough. It just played like a constant for me. After months and months of play, there's no heat up, no weird shifts in how it responds, no rattle developing, just the same crisp, firm contact every single session. The community pick was the RPM Friction Pro Elongated as your top power paddle, and I completely understand why. This thing has excellent power, but what surprised me was the feel. I expected it to trampoline on resets like most, but not all power paddles do. The Friction Pro doesn't. It has this dwell that absorbs pace so you can actually place the ball instead of just hoping it stays in. But this is one of the few paddles that gives you elite power without making you sacrifice control, and I think that combination is rare. All right, let's move from power to versatility around the court. Best all-court paddle. My runner-up is the Franklin C45 Hybrid, which was released in early 2025. This paddle frustrated me at first, a lot. Kind of like the Quanta did in the segment before, a lot. Stock, it felt unstable, off-center hits twisted and were very unstable, shots sailed long, and I couldn't figure out why people were hyping it. And I almost gave up on it. Then, on a whim, I added weight to the corners and everything changed. Control was finally there, resets finally there, serves carried depth, punch volleys had enough pop to actually finish points. The spin was solid enough to shape drives and work drops. It became one of the most balanced, fun, and lightweight paddles I played all year. At $229, it's still not cheap, and you have to be willing to customize it, but once you dial it in, it's really good. The frustrating part? Franklin could have just made it more stable from the factory, but if you're willing to do the work and personalize it, it honestly plays pretty great. My winner is the 6-0 Coral Hybrid. This is the paddle I kept grabbing when I just wanted to play and not think about my equipment. It's not the most powerful, it's not the most forgiving, but it does everything well enough that I didn't have to think about it. What I love is how it absorbs pace, and it's quick, faster than you'd expect for a paddle with this much touch. The texture seems to be holding up well too, though. Time will tell if Diamond Grit holds up. I have a ton of hours on mine, and it's not wearing like most paddles do after a few weeks. At $200 before code, if you win through placement instead of trying to overpower people, this is your paddle. I kept coming back to it. Now, the community pick was the Pickleball Apes Charm S. You voted the Charm S by a landslide, and I get why. This paddle has a really unique personality. It's dense and muted, but in a good way. It gives you power when you generate it and not when the paddle does. Soft swings stay controlled, hard swings unlock power. It's predictable, for the most part anyway. What's interesting is how it plays in different parts of the court. From the baseline on full drives, it delivers real output, almost in a non-linear way due to the sliced core. In the transition zone on resets, it absorbs pace without that springy kick. At the kitchen, you can activate it when you attack with punch volleys. At $180 after code, it's positioned against the Loco and other foam paddles. The Charm has this variable response that some players absolutely love. If you want a paddle that's pretty well rounded, it's one to check out and a great community pick. Now let's talk about control, best control paddle. My runner-up is the 11624 Jelly Bean series. This is a control paddle that doesn't sacrifice output, and that's rare. Control-oriented paddles can tend to play too soft. You can reset and dink all day, but when you need to finish a point, there's just nothing there. The Jelly Bean doesn't do that. Contact is clean and connected in a lighter weight frame. The ball sits on the face, you can shape shots, and resets are a breeze. But when you need some pop and power, there's still some there. You're not fighting the paddle to stay offensive, and at around $99 before code, if you want a control paddle that can actually finish points, this delivers. My winner is the Pickleball Apes Harmony line. This was the most refined control paddle I played all year. Resets are effortless. The feel absorbs pace and lets you redirect without fighting anything. Drops sit consistently, dinks have enough touch to work angles without sailing long. Everything works at a slightly slower pace. But what separates this from other control paddles is that it still has pop. The sweet spot is big enough that mishits stay playable, stability is solid, and the handling is quick without feeling twitchy. There's no break-in curve with this paddle. It plays dialed from day one and stays that way. That polyurethane foam instead of EVA means it doesn't soften over time like other Gen 3 paddles. At $179 before code, this balances touch with enough output to stay offensive. If you want a control paddle that doesn't force you to give up finishing power, this one's it. The community pick was the Pickleball Apes Harmony V, the Widebody version, and that makes sense for control. The V trades some hand speed for a larger sweet spot and better forgiveness on off-center hits. Spin is strong, resets are effortless, and the stability is exceptional. You feel it on blocks and counters where other paddles would twist. If you prioritize forgiveness and want the biggest sweet spot in the line, the V delivers, but so does the entire line. Let's talk about value because you don't need to spend $300 to get great performance. Best value paddle. My runner-up is the Luzz Cannon. At $93 after code, this paddle competes with options costing 2 or 3 times as much. Serves come off fast, legitimately fast for a paddle under $100. Punch volleys have solid pop, the spin is respectable, and the stability is better than most elongated paddles in this price range. The feel is classic Gen 3, immediate rebound with that distinctive crack on contact. It's quick through the air and carries enough weight to drive through balls without feeling heavy. If you want crisp response and serious serve speed at a budget price, this delivers. My winner is the Ronbus Quanta. This is the best value paddle of 2025, and it's not close. At $99 after code, you're getting foam performance that plays like a lighter, raw boomstick for a third of the price. That's the story here. The value is absurd. Stock, it needs work, but add weight and the transformation is immediate. Power jumps, the sweet spot expands, stability improves dramatically. I compared it to the boomstick side by side, and the gap was uncomfortably small for a paddle that cost $99 versus $333. For value, nothing else this year came close. You have to customize it, sure. But if you're willing to tinker for 5 minutes, this is the best value in pickleball, period. The community pick was the Vatic Pro VSOL Pro Flash. You voted for the VSOL Pro Flash at $99 after code, and I understand why. The Pro gives you that hollow feedback with immediate ball exit. Power is explosive when you catch it clean, but it can feel inconsistent on off-center hits until you add a little bit of weight. It reminds me of a budget Loco. If you love floating core feedback and don't mind adding weight, this delivers excellent performance for the price. Now let's talk about the paddles that didn't get enough attention, most underrated paddle. My runner-up is the Gearbox GX2 Power Hybrid, and honestly, nobody was paying attention when this launched. Gearbox had spent the first half of the year trying to convince people the original GX2 was good, and it was stable, sure. It played very well, sure. But it was so muted, so quiet, disconnected. People dismissed it. Then the GX2 Power came out, and it fixed everything wrong about the original GX2. The sound is back. The feedback is back. You can hear the ball now. And now you get a Gen 3 response in a foam core design with an internal rib structure that's designed purposely not to break down. And when you swing, the ball takes off. It feels like a Gen 3 that stores your energy and then releases it all at once, but it's a foam core, not honeycomb, not jumpy, not wild, just clean and controlled. You can shape shots, you can feel the ball compress and release. It's not that muted, disconnected feeling anymore. The sweet spot is great, and it plays complete stock, no break-in period, no waiting for it to settle in. At $279 before code and in a year where everyone chased foam and everyone was hyping the same 5 paddles, the GX2 Power Hybrid delivered one of the best all-around performances. And it was gone as fast as it got here. It might be due to the price, but I do know from Gearbox that return rates due to manufacturing defects or any core issues are extremely low on this line, which is a very good thing. My winner is the Luzz Pro Cannon. This is the most underrated paddle of 2025, and I don't think it's even close. Honestly, I think most of you had never even heard of this brand until a few months ago. At $93 after code, this thing plays like a Pro 4 for almost a third of the price. It's a Gen 3 build with that classic crisp response, immediate rebound, that distinctive crack on contact. The sweet spot is forgiving for an elongated paddle. Stability is better than most elongated paddles in this price range, and it's quick through the air. You're not fighting the paddle to get it around in fast exchanges. What makes it underrated is pretty simple. Nobody's talking about this brand. Luzz isn't a household name. There's no hype machine behind this paddle, but it's building and they're growing. The performance? It competes with paddles costing twice as much. At $93, if you want Gen 3 power, Pro 4 feel, and don't want to spend $279, this is one of the best values in pickleball. The community pick was the 11624 Alpha Pro Power at $199, now $159, but better after code, and that's such a good pick. This paddle does everything well without asking for anything in return. No mods, no adjustments, just solid, consistent performance stock. And it's one of my top 5 favorite Gen 3 paddles of 2025. It's priced really well right now, and I absolutely agree it deserves recognition. All right, now for the tough one. The paddle I wanted to love but couldn't. My runner-up is the Boomstick Elongated. This is one of the most technically impressive paddles I've played all year. And it performs, serves hard, punch volleys have solid pop, spin holds up longer than most paddles, the dwell time is excellent, power is linear, but at $333, the value proposition just falls apart. When paddles like the YOLO Pro 4, 11624 Alpha Pro Power, and Selkirk's own SLK Aero Power deliver similar performance for $80 to $150 less, I can't recommend spending this much. Sure, it's foam, and it's supposed to last longer, in theory. But early on, I experienced quality control issues where a visible seam developed across the face and the edge guard separated in more than one place. And at that price, even for a Labs product, I think that's unacceptable. But that's why it's a Labs product. The performance is there, the value isn't, and there's a lot to figure out, but I can't wait to see the next iteration. My winner, if you can call it that for this category, it's the F&B Sports Runout. I genuinely wanted to love this paddle. The forged carbon frame is innovative. The construction is recyclable. It's made in the US. The engineering is impressive, but it's one of the stiffest, most rigid paddles I've played all year. The sweet spot is small. The feel is harsh. Mishits feel bad. Resets and drops require precise technique because there's no cushion or forgiveness. I tested all three shapes and even added weight to improve stability. It helped, but it didn't change the fundamental character. At $199, it's positioned against the Loco and J2NF. Those paddles are softer, more forgiving, and easier to play stock. And for the community pick, you voted the Boomstick Elongated, and I think the reasons are similar. Price, quality control concerns, and value compared to alternatives. It's a good paddle. You see them everywhere, of all skill levels. That's just too expensive for what it delivers. All right, let's break it down by shape. Best paddle in each category. The best elongated shape goes to the Thrive Fury Elongated 15.5 millimeters. It's one of the few Gen 3 honeycomb paddles left in 2025 that can actually hang with foam cores on raw power, but it's lighter than most, quicker, easier to swing, and has great feel and good performance all around the court. What's unique about it is the embedded throat weighting. Thrive built actual metal weighting blocks into the throat during construction, not foam filler. You can see it in the x-rays. And that internal mass keeps the paddle tracking straight even when you catch the ball outside the sweet spot. Most lightweight paddles fall apart there, and the Fury doesn't. The grit is aggressive, one of the grittiest surfaces I've played all year, and it doesn't wear down in 2 weeks like other surfaces do. The texture actually holds up. It serves hard, it drives hard, and when you accelerate through the ball, the power ramps up in a way that feels controlled, not explosive, not wild, just clean and predictable with excellent feel, feedback, and touch. It costs $199 before code. Next is the best hybrid paddle of 2025, and that goes to the J2NF from Honolulu Pickleball. Every time I'd try something new, I'd play a few sessions, think, yeah, this is good, then grab the J2NF again and immediately feel the difference. The shape gives you speed without sacrificing stability. The sweet spot is huge, entering widebody territory for a hybrid shape. And it just works stock. No modifications, no break-in period, no waiting for it to settle in. It hits hard. It resets cleanly. Counters have good pace and control. No heat up, no weird shifts in how it responds, and no rattle developing. Just the same crisp, firm contact every single session. And it costs $195 before code. Finally, the best widebody / standard shape of 2025, and that goes to the bread and butter Loco Standard. And what's interesting is how it plays compared to what people expected. When foam cores started taking over the power category, a lot of them felt explosive, unpredictable, like you had to constantly adjust to keep the ball from flying long. The Loco doesn't solve all those problems, but it amplifies power in a way that's not crazy difficult to control and in a very stable frame. After a short break-in period, the feel absorbs pace, and it delivers more power than you'd expect, without ever feeling like it's doing the work for you. Quick hands, big sweet spot, stable on mishits, and it looks pretty cool too. Bread and butter always nails the aesthetics. At $199 before code, it's positioned right between budget foam options and premium paddles, in both performance and price. And for a wide body, if you want something that feels connected and crisp instead of just springy and spongy, this is it. All right, let's pivot and talk about bags for a minute because you need something to carry all these paddles in. So let's talk about the best bag of 2025. And when it comes to pickleball bags, there are really two companies worth paying attention to, at least in 2025. Both of these companies are driven to build the best product they can with thoughtful design, construction, and materials that will last you years. My runner-up is the Forward Court Ranger bag. At $185 before code, this bag delivers exceptional value and even more exceptional build quality. You should expect nothing less from the folks at Forward. The Court Ranger holds 2 to 3 paddles officially, but I've fit 6 inside and 2 in the paddle sleeve on the front. The organizational layout is simple and efficient. It stands upright on its own, and the lifetime warranty backs up the quality. Now, my winner is the ADV Flex Bag. This is the best pickleball bag I've used all year. At $225, yes, it's more expensive than the Ranger, but the extra money buys you significantly more functionality. It expands when you need it, has 18 compartments, including a laptop sleeve, dual layer construction throughout, padded laptop protection, and I fit 8 paddles plus a laptop inside, along with shoes on the outside. The magnetic paddle access is faster than zippers. The speed pockets make grab and go easy. The luggage strap is great for travel. This isn't just a pickleball bag, it's an everyday bag that happens to be excellent for pickleball. I think the 10-year warranty, thoughtful design, and premium materials justify the $225 price tag. All right, this is it. Paddle of the Year. This award isn't just about specs or construction or price. It's about the paddle that defined 2025 for me. The one that stood out to me. The one that pushed the category forward to me. The one I used in most competitive play, and the one I personally felt most dialed into. I've hit over 200 paddles this year. Pretty crazy. Some sucked, some were good, some were great, and a few were exceptional. Some were original and some were refined, but only one gets this award. But first, my runner-up is the Honolulu Pickleball J2NF. Given the number of times the J2NF was in previous categories, and on paper, this should be my paddle of the year, but it was close. Very, very close. This paddle does everything. It's powerful, it's fast, it's stable, it's consistent, it serves hard, it resets cleanly, it has good feel, especially for a foam paddle and in a category where most, not all, offer muted feedback. It generates good spin, it handles fast exchanges without feeling unstable or slow, and at $195 before code, it's priced in a way that makes it accessible. If I had to recommend one paddle to most players, okay, more advanced players, players who want something that has the durability of foam and just feels and plays so well, the J2NF would be at the top of that list, but it didn't win Paddle of the Year, and it's my super close second. My winner is the RPM Friction Pro Elongated 16mm. This is my Paddle of the Year for 2025. Wait, you didn't go foam? What in the world? And it's not just because it performs well. A lot of paddles perform well. It's because this paddle solved a problem for me that most paddles this year didn't. For some time, power paddles have shared common issues. You get elite output, but sacrifice some control or feel. Or you get extreme power, big drives, and deep serves, but under pressure, they're more challenging to reset the point and placement disappears. Now, some dismiss the Friction Pro as a Pro 4 knockoff. But when the so-called knockoff plays more controlled and forgiving than the original, with better control and just as much power, I don't think that's copying. I think that's an improvement. The Friction Pro has real power and control. The kind that makes opponents adjust their positioning because of how you shape the ball. But it doesn't trampoline on you when you're trying to take speed off. It has this dwell, this soft response, that lets you absorb pace and actually place the ball where you want it. You're not just hoping it stays in, you can direct it. RPM spent time dialing in the feel on this paddle, and I think it shows. When foam or other power paddles feel harsh or jarring or too muted while you're working resets or trying to finesse dinks or you're under pressure, this one doesn't. It's just smooth, controlled, and very predictable. At $250, yeah, it's expensive. I'm not going to pretend it's not. But this is one of the few paddles, maybe the only paddle this year, that gives you elite power output without making you choose between offense and control. It's a more balanced power paddle, and that's why it's my Paddle of the Year. And on this one, the community pick for Paddle of the Year was also the RPM Friction Pro Elongated. And honestly, I think you saw what I saw. This isn't a paddle that screams for attention. Well, one of the founders does, but it just works at an elite level, consistently, very, very well. So yeah, the RPM Friction Pro Elongated 16mm is my Paddle of the Year for 2025. So that's it. Those are the winners for Paddle of the Year 2025. Before we wrap, I want to say thank you to all of the companies I got to work with this year. Whether you sent paddles for review, collaborated on content, or just supported what I was doing here, I really, really appreciate you. Building great products is hard. Building a channel that tries to cut through the marketing noise and give honest takes, also hard. So thanks for trusting me to test your gear and share my real opinions with this community. And to everyone watching, thank you. To everyone who watches these videos, leaves comments, sends emails, joins the Discord, says hi at tournaments, argues with me in the comments about whether the boomstick is worth $333, You're the reason I can keep doing this. None of this works without you showing up, engaging, and caring about this weird, wonderful sport and the equipment we use to play it. I don't take any of that for granted. Don't like the results this year? You can change them. Starting January 1st, my site will host a live, always-on voting feature for Community Picks 2026. You can vote once per category and edit your choices anytime throughout the year. Real-time rankings, community-powered results, and complete transparency. Be sure to check it out at mattspickleball.com. Cast your votes and help shape next year's episode. All right, now that's it. Thanks for watching, thanks for voting, and thanks for making 2025 an incredible year for pickleball content. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and drop your personal paddle of the year in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.